30 years ago, the world was shaken by a strange phenomenon called spacequake. It devastated the center of Eurasia and obliterated almost the entire area, claiming the lives of at least 150 million people. Since then, smaller spacequakes plague the world on an irregular basis. Our main character is an ordinary high school boy who lives with her cute little sister in Tengu City. In morning, Kotori wakes up our MC with a cute dance, making him a bit annoyed. MC then pulls out a prank to scare her. Later, he makes a promise to meet at a diner. As school ends, a spatial quake alarm sounds throughout the city for the citizens to enter shelter areas immediately. After being unable to contact his sister, afraid for her safety, MC goes out to get her. But on his way, he was swept away by a spacequake that rendered much of the buildings around him into rubble. In the middle of the crater caused by the spacequake, a girl appears dressed in lavishly decorated armor. The girl in purple armor confronts our main protagonist, asking him if he will kill her. Before MC could answer, several flying units swoops down, aggressively attacking the mysterious girl. However, the armored girl takes up her OP blade and nullifies the attacks against her. Not too long after that, an attacker came down to fight her, and she and MC quickly recognized each other, the latter turning out to be none other than Origami Tabiichi herself. Origami then prepares to fight the spirit girl using an energy sword. The epic battle between them unleashes a powerful shockwave that ultimately knocks him out. MC soon finds himself being monitored by a lady in military clothing named Reina. She tells MC that he is aboard the Fraxinus, the vessel of the Ratatosk. After he lost consciousness, they seem to have picked him up from the battleground. He suddenly remembers about his sister and starts freaking out, so she took him to the main control room, where MC discovers Dio. He is the most fearsome anime villain, and from JoJo's bizarre adventure, still living in Aniverse as a different voice actor for a different character. Moving on, MC finds out that his younger sister is the captain of the Fraxinus. As Kotori explains the situation about the mysterious girl, who she calls a spirit, our MC notices that Kotori seems to have a completely different personality than before. Kotori simply shrugs it off and proceeds to explain what a spirit is, among other things. Kotori explains that spirits are otherworldly beings who create spacequakes upon arriving on Earth, regardless of their will. Secondly, the ones who attacked the spirit earlier is the anti-spirit team, a task force with duties to combat spirits who manifest on Earth. Thirdly, there is a way to defeat a spirit without killing it, and he is the person they need for this. Kotori asks MC to return to his normal life and stages his training to make girls fall for him shortly. Shido must try to make his teacher fall in love with him. He clearly struggles in this exercise. Not only it involves making someone fall in love with him, but it also involves his teacher. Regardless, Kotori urges him to push through, as it would show how he would fare when it comes to spirits. MC first tries out complimenting her attire, but Rin soon guides Shido into using sweet talk that she thinks is effective against a 29-year-old girl. The plan worked, although Rin underestimates his teacher's reaction to getting married to someone of MC's age. Fortunately, MC manages to get away from her, although he runs right into Origami, catching a glimpse of her white panty in the process. Kotori, despite knowing Origami's true identity, decides to use her for Shido's training, and again with Rin's guidance, Shido tries to woo Origami. This time, it seems that it works like a charm, but Shido's embarrassment over this situation ends up with their supposed date becoming a reality. Soon, a spacequake emergency is sounded throughout the school premises, and Kotori tells Shido to retreat to the Fraxinus because the spacequake is detected to appear at Raisin High School itself. Hours later, MC is redeployed to the school premises that was now utterly destroyed due to the spacequake. Kotori soon briefs MC about his solitary role in dealing with the spirit that he had met before. He was able to get to the spirit, however. The spirit refuses to listen to him, but she recognizes our MC as the guy she met before, so he uses this chance to talk to the spirit while assisted by Ratatosk. However, they seem to make things worse for MC, as their decisions only provoke the spirit into attacking him. Our MC had enough and decides to act by himself, and he declares that he may not be interested in whatever they would talk about, but he is determined to not reject her. At that instant, the ruthless spirit has a change of personality and childishly rejects MC's serious statement. However, she eventually warms up to MC as she considers him the first human to ever have talked to her. MC soon discovers that the spirit doesn't have a name to call herself with, and the analysis team suggests the name Tommy after getting ideas from various sources around the world. Unfortunately, the spirit doesn't like the name, so MC gave her the name Toka. After the day of their first encounter on April 10th, the spirit seems to approve of the name and smiles in response. Suddenly, a hail of gunfire rains down on Toka from above, which MC barely evaded if not for Kotori's swift warning. Toka advises MC to move away from her to avoid getting caught in the crossfire, but MC strongly refused and asked her to talk with him. Toka eventually complies with MC's request, and the two sit down in the wrecked classroom, ignoring all the incoming gunfires that Toka's barrier protects them from. During the conversation, Toka reveals that she doesn't know much about herself and the reason why she suddenly appears on Earth, ending up getting attacked in the process. Meanwhile, Kotori takes this chance where Toka is calmer than usual for MC to make his move. With the jeering of the Ratatosk ringing in his ears, MC decides to go with their plans. Meanwhile, the endless hail of fire from the anti-spirit team comes into a halt as they discover a civilian with the spirit. Upon recognizing who this civilian is, Origami swoops in to confront Toka. Origami's presence quickly reverts the spirit's mood into pure aggression. Toka summons her weapon and slashes. Origami manages to survive the encounter with Toka that night and was given a short sermon by her superior about being reckless in her duties before being taken to safety. MC was unharmed as well, although upon his return to the ruins of Raisin High School, he is still having second thoughts about what happened the day before. Soon, a familiar voice calls out to him, and Toka emerges from behind him, expecting MC to fulfill what he promised to her. After following MC's advice to change into a more accepted set of clothing, Raisin High School's uniform, he and Toka head out to their next destination. Having just discovered that school had been canceled after the destruction caused by the AST's assaults on the previous day, Shido suddenly encounters Toka, who immediately talks about the date that Shido had talked to her about earlier. After Shido convinces Toka to change into more appropriate clothing, they go into town and eventually ended up at a bakery, which instantly caught the attention of Toka's stomach. As Toka indulges herself with different kinds of food, from soybean bread to hot dogs, Toka tries to determine what exactly is a date, and which of those things she ate is the date Shido is talking about. Shido tries to clarify things for her, but the infinitely inquisitive spirit continues to roam the city for anything that piques her interest, much to the sorrow of his wallet. Meanwhile, Origami suits up into her CR unit and prepares to pursue the two. Ratatosk soon returns to the Fraxinus and evaluate the current situation. Although there are some who fail miserably in their respective mission, Kotori calls the mission a success as a whole. However, they discovered that it is raining when there are no rain clouds nearby. Kotori shrugs it aside and even considers it as a possible advantage. Due to the rain, Toka and Shido head for cover in a nearby gaming center. Although Toka initially mistakes it for an AST base, Shido assures her that they are safe there. A particular catcher machine filled with bread-shaped plush toys suddenly takes Toka's attention. However, she is not able to get the tasty-looking plush bread. Fortunately, it took a team effort from Shido and Toka to get the plush bread. The rain soon subsided and the two head to a nearby playground to rest. Toka tells Shido about the enjoyment she had during their time together, but she still does not know what a date is. Shido finally explains that a date is when a boy and girl go out together and have fun. Based on Shido's definition, Toka concludes that they had an outstanding date. Meanwhile, the AST closely watches as the spirit named Toka manifests herself without space-time quake occurrence. Although faced with such an unusual scenario, permission to use sniping weapons has been given. Although overjoyed by the date they had, with the discovery that the world is a fun and nice place to live in, Toka realizes that she had been destroying this world through her manifestations. Shido refuses to believe that Toka does not deserve to stay on Earth, and he assures her that she can stay on Earth for good, even if the rest of the world rejects her. Shido holds out his hand toward Toka. However, for a split second, he feels a threat approaching fast. After pushing Toka aside, origami fires and the bread, along with a piece of Shido's side, is obliterated in an instant. The sudden turn of events came like a flash to Toka, but as soon as she sees Shido's bloody corpse on the ground, she finally accepted Earth's decision to reject her. Upon summoning her astral dress Adonai Melech and her angel Sandalphon, she unleashes her ultimate weapon, the Halvan Helev. The AST scrambles into retreat as the Halvan Helev cleanly slices through a nearby cliff. Meanwhile, Origami, still frozen in shock after firing upon her classmate in Raisin High School, sits helplessly in front of a raging spirit. Meanwhile, Ratatoskr finds itself in a similar crisis as well. With a rampaging spirit, a space-time quake alert has been issued, but evacuation procedures are only 6% complete. At this stage, if Toka is not calmed, the city would be annihilated and there will be many casualties. However, Kotori calmly assures everyone that Shido is safe. Soon enough, a burning flame envelops Shido's wound in a flash. A split second after, there's no trace of the fatal wound he received. Kotori then pushes through the plan to retrieve Shido and to calm the raging princess. Origami is deafened by the realization that she killed a human, while Toka is blinded by seething rage toward Shido's killer. Origami, helpless in fighting a powerful spirit, succumbs to her imminent fate. However, Toka's attention is diverted to something flying behind her, Shido in the flesh. Toka is overjoyed to see Shido alive, however. She tells Shido that her final sword is reaching its critical limit and the energy it holds must be released. Kotori soon contacts Shido and reminds him of the thing she taught him about saving a princess. Shido tells Toka they need a kiss, but soon finds himself running out of time to explain everything to her. Fortunately, Toka's inquisitiveness kicks in and she kisses Shido instead. As a result, all of the remnants of her spirit form dissipated, leaving behind a stark naked Toka who keeps her body close to keep him from seeing everything. Although embarrassed, Toka asks if Shido would take her again for a date. Upon hearing Shido's affirmative response, a warm smile emerges from the spirit's lips. After that, Toka transferred to Shido's school. Few days later, while running through the rain, MC sees a little girl playing around in the shrine before she trips and falls. Coming to help her up, the girl backs away from her, seemingly afraid of him. Shido is confused, but to his complete surprise, the puppet begins talking without the girl's help. The puppet introduces themselves as Yoshinon and thanks Shido for helping her up and playfully questions if he thought he could simply find a girl for himself, but Shido denies the presumption before leaving on his way to school. At school, Toka has made cookies and competes with Origami for attracting Shido's attention. In order to settle both girls down, he tries both cookies and compliments both equally, but the two continue to argue over who was better. The next day, while on his way to school on another rainy day, Shido passes by the shrine from the day before and remembers encountering the little girl. The girl's puppet is then seen peeping out from one of the trees as he leaves. Later at home, Shido finds Toka inside the bathroom and is knocked away. Upon asking Kotori why Toka is in their house, he learns that Toka will be living in his house since he has sealed her powers, whereas Kotori and Rin explain that it is also training for Shido, as he still has to assist in sealing more spirits. Kotori then tricks Shido into replacing the light bulb in the bathroom, causing Shido to catch Toka inside and be knocked away again. Later, Shido is forced to take the first bath by Kotori, whom he fails to bribe into, but at first finds that Toka is not there but later realizes that Kotori had arranged that he go first so Toka would unknowingly head in the bath too. Upon finding Shido inside, an embarrassed Toka begins to comically drown Shido. The next morning, Shido wakes up but feels a strange object in front of him upon realizing he is in Toka's room, sleeping next to her. That causes Toka to wake up and throw things at Shido. At school, both Toka and Origami once again fight over Shido about who gets to sit next to him during lunch. Later, a spacequake alarm sounds off during their class. Tomei advises the students to proceed to the safe shelter as per usual. Confused, Toka asks what is happening, to which Shido explains to her the situation, which she seems to understand. Rin arrives, and knowing what he needs to do, Shido asks Tomei to look after Toka as he and Rin leave, with Toka visibly worried about where he might go. Aboard Fraxinus, Shido is briefed by Kotori that a spirit is indeed the cause of the spacequake. As Kotori has her crew zoom in to get a visible image of which spirit it is, NC is surprised to find out that it is the little girl he encountered yesterday. That surprised Kotori as he had already met the spirit. Its code name is Hermit. Kotori transports MC to the spirit's location. Toka appears and confronts Yoshinon, which latter creates a misunderstanding by telling Toka that Shido had gotten tired of her and decided he likes Yoshinon more than her. Shido tries to explain, but Toka interjects him when Yoshinon then continues to taunt Toka about Shido choosing her more over Toka. Later, at the Itsuka residence, Shido knocks on Toka's room, asking her to let him explain, but Toka refuses, still upset over what happened before. Meanwhile, at the local shrine, Hermit stands silently alone, her puppet missing. Later at a diner, Rin asks Toka what her problem is before guessing that it involves Shido and the little girl. Toka refutes that it does not concern Shido, but Rin still assumes that he may be involved, where Toka then admits that she herself does not even know why she is in the worst possible mood right now. Somewhere in the city, Shido, having gone grocery shopping, walks back home and takes an alleyway as a shortcut, but to his surprise, he finds Yoshinon looking for something on the ground. He calls her name out, which startles the little girl and prompts her to run away, before Shido asks her not to, and he notices that she is missing her puppet. Yoshinon then runs to Shido and then realizes that's what she is looking for. Yoshinon nods, confirming Shido's realization. Back at the diner, Toka expresses that she does not care who Shido is with, stating that it is none of her business, but adds that she felt awful immediately as soon as she saw Shido with Yoshinon. Toka continues that upon hearing the puppet taunt her about Shido caring more about Yoshinon than her, it made her feel empty inside, as if she was all alone. Admitting to Rin that it made her feel sad and scared more than anything she has gone through. Back with Shido, he figures out that Yoshinon had lost her puppet when she fled from the AST the day before, reporting to Kotori about this issue. Kotori has Fraxinus scan a video feed during the incident, but advises Shido that he take the lead in searching for the puppet, saying that it is best that the girl's attention is focused on him. Shido then tells Yoshinon that they are ready when she is ready, but the little girl reveals to Shido that her real name is Yoshino and that the puppet they are looking for is Yoshinon. As Yoshino leaves, Shido gives her his umbrella, assuring the docile spirit that he will be fine. With Rin and Toka, Rin assures Toka that there is nothing wrong with her, but clears out to Toka that the kiss between Shido and Yoshino was all an accident, telling Toka that it isn't true that Shido does not care about her. Still unable to believe it, Rin reminds Toka that Shido risked his life to save her when Yoshino had gone berserk, which convinces Toka. Yoshino then says that Yoshinon is her best friend and her hero, which surprises Shido. Yoshino continues on saying that she wants to become someone like Yoshinon, someone brave and strong. Yoshino concludes that she will, however, not become someone like her, but Shido states that he likes her just the way she is, which quickly embarrasses Yoshino. Yoshino then says that people must hate someone like that. She then continues by saying how she is afraid, always freezing up when she gets scared. After explaining, Shido pets her head, and upon being asked why, he proclaims to Yoshino that he is here to protect her and that they will find Yoshinon, but she does not need to rely on her anymore as he will be there, as he states that he is her hero now. Moved, Yoshino thanked Shido for his kindness. Shido then apologizes for the incident between them yesterday, but then tries to kiss her to seal Yoshino's power. However, Toka arrives trying to apologize to him and catches both him and Yoshino, much to his dismay. Yoshino then disappears upon seeing Toka, and as Shido is about to explain, Toka angrily leaves. Kotori then contacts Shido and tells him that they found where Yoshinon is. In her room, Toka lets her anger out on her pillow. Later, Shido visits Origami, with Kotori confirming to Shido that she had taken Yoshinan during the aftermath. But as the two talks, Shido's communication with Kotori gets mysteriously broken up. Shido then reaches Origami's room, and when he rings the doorbell, it suddenly swings open and he is surprised to see Origami wearing a maid's outfit. Inside, after a rather awkward moment just to make Shido call her by her first name instead, Origami takes a shower, giving Shido his chance to look for Yoshinan. After looking through almost every corner of her room, amidst very scandalous and suggestive knickknacks, Shido is able to locate the puppet and retrieve her. Just at that moment, Origami finishes her shower and goes to meet Shido wearing just a towel, to Shido's complete embarrassment. On board Fraxinus, Kotori and her crew are trying to re-establish their communication with Shido. Back with Shido, Origami asks him what Shido is, remembering the time she had accidentally shot him. Shido then asks Origami if she has ever talked to the spirits before. As Origami asks what he means, Shido answers by saying that he has talked to them before, to her horror and utter disbelief. Origami warns Shido that she believes to be dangerous. However, Shido calmly insists to Origami that not all spirits are as bad as she thinks, and that spirits like Toka and Yoshino are good and that he is going to help Yoshino, as well as telling her that he won't abandon Toka. Shido then asks Origami to promise him that she won't hurt good people, telling Origami that he knows she is a good person as well. But Origami reminds Shido that though they may be good, the spirits are still the cause of the spacequakes. Then at that moment, Origami's phone rings, prompting her to leave immediately, but before she can, Shido asks Origami if Yoshino's spirit powers give out she would stop attacking her, though Origami tells him that she will still follow her orders, regardless of what happens, even if it is something she wants to do. Somewhere in the city, Yoshino is being chased and attacked by the AST. MC and Toka goes to help her. Meanwhile, a blizzard has erupted from Yoshino's angel, preventing the AST from attacking. Origami, however, uses her realizer to lift a nearby building, using it to strike the moment the blizzard goes down. Her attempt is proven futile, as the building is shredded by a mysterious energy, which Origami manages to dodge. Toka is revealed to be the cause, and upon seeing her, Origami immediately engages her in a duel. The rest of the AST then chase after Toka, as well upon spotting her. As Toka distracts them, Shido arrives near the blizzard, but a very concerned Kotori contacts him, warning Shido that if he goes through the barrier without any sort of protection, even with his regenerative power, it could be fatal. Shido jokingly comments on Kotori's concern for him, but she reminds Shido of when he got shot by a single bullet and that the blizzard is much deadlier than that, meaning he could die if his spirit power goes down. Shido continues on toward the blizzard to Yoshino, despite Kotori's pleas for him not to. Inside, Yoshino cries out Yoshinan's name, but to her surprise, she sees Yoshinan carried by Shido, who then falls to the ground. Yoshino runs to Shido as his wounds begin to heal themselves, where she is relieved that Shido came to her aid, even more when MC brings her back Yoshinan, but causes Yoshino to cry. Shido then sits back up and assures Yoshino that everything will be fine, but she thanks him for being nice to her and for saving Yoshinan. MC then tells the loli that it is her time to be saved, but he must kiss her in order to do so, which seemingly upsets Yoshino. Noticing this, Shido takes it back by saying that it was just a joke, but Yoshino stands up and kisses him. Afterward, Yoshino's astral dress and the blizzard disappear, clearing the sky with a visible rainbow that both Shido and Yoshino see. The next day, Shido asks what is going on, referring to the building next to their house. Kotori reveals it to be a special housing unit for the spirits, saying that Toka will then move out and instead live at the special house, including Yoshino. The Itsuka siblings then turn around and see Yoshino, wearing casual clothing, running to their side and greeting them. Shido happily greets Yoshino as well, which makes her happy. The episode ends as all three of them look at the new house just as Yoshinan suddenly pops up on the screen and says that it is not over yet, and the story will still continue. Then the next scene starts with Ryuko and her AST squad, who are under attack by a mysterious group as she yells at how this all happened. Earlier that day, Kotori is contacted by Shido about going to a hot spring, since Toka and Yoshino wanted to check out one as soon as possible. Kotori agrees with the idea and decides to make an arrangement for it. When asked where they should go, Shido suggests the nearby hot springs in the city, Tengu Paradise Hot Springs. Kanazuki agrees on the destination and suggests that Kotori take a break, which she immediately rejects. But Kanazuki states that they won't be able to function properly as a crew as she works herself too much. Kotori suspects another motive behind Kanazuki's suggestion and asks him what he is really after, to which Kanazuki responds in his usual perverted behavior, prompting Kotori to have him taken away again. Kotori then has Kanazuki dig up a hole non-stop for the entire day, which will be filled up again, and have him repeat the same thing for a week as punishment. At the camp, Ryuko is being briefed by one of her superiors that a group from DEM are being deployed for her and her team to observe as to follow their techniques on how to deal with the spirits. Later at her office, after letting out a fit, she is asked by one of her subordinates about the trip this weekend, and after expressing her delight over the trip, she is unfortunately reported about the sudden rise in alert levels for them due to the frequent appearances of spirits recently, thus resulting in their trip being cancelled, causing Ryuko's frustration toward the spirits. However, Ryuko's subordinate instead suggests that she go to the local hot springs instead, citing it as their way of showing Ryuko their gratitude for her. Excited, Ryuko thanks her. Elsewhere, Origami is with the rest of her group. Ryuko's subordinate from before happily reports back to the rest of their captain, accepting their invitation. Origami, however, disapproves of the idea, reasoning that they could use their time to instead train, but that moment, Shido calls her and asks if he could return the book he borrowed from her the day after tomorrow, to which Origami asks him why. As Shido is about to explain, she hears Toka's voiceover on Shido's line, accidentally giving away where they are going, much to Origami's jealousy and anger. Yoshino and Toka are looking at the view from the window, from the car Shido and Rin are in. As the three happily view the scenery, with Shido commenting that it is the first time the two have actually ridden in a car. As Shido pets Yoshino on the head, Toka takes notice of this and asks Shido to pet her as well. Shido is unable to do so due to him being in the backseat and Toka being at the front, with Toka complaining over this, but Shido reasons that she was the one who decided to sit at the front herself. Yoshino then asks Shido to pet her as well, which MC does cause Toka to become jealous. When MC explains to Yoshino what a barger pole is, Toka becomes way too frustrated with the situation and accidentally breaks a hole into the car's floor, causing her foot to go through and the row below them to give way. Meanwhile, with the AST, Ryuko and her squad are taking the deployment train to the hot springs. Suddenly, a cave-in occurs in the tunnels which forces the train to stop due to an emergency shutdown, forcing the group to go on foot instead. Back with Shido and the rest, they are now continuing on foot after the incident, with Toka asking Shido to forgive her. He reassures Toka that it was okay and tells her that he isn't mad at her and pets Toka on the head, making her happy. A moment later, the AST are blocked in all of their possible routes, with Fraxinus being the cause. Ryuko orders Origami to take the watch from above for any other routes they can take. Origami spots a side road that connects to the main road that they could take, and Ryuko immediately orders her group to march toward it. Meanwhile, with Toka and the rest, as they walk through a street, Shido spots someone familiar from behind a stand and goes to check. To his surprise, he finds Kotori being the store and asks what she is doing there. Shido offers to Kotori to just come along with them to the hot springs, and Kotori happily accepts. Ryuko and her squad find another dead end on the road that they were taking. Frustrated, she uses an explosive to clear the blockade, which Kotori takes notice of and orders her crew to take action to stop them. Having enough of this, Ryuko retaliates on her own and destroys most of the traps, which annoys Kotori, who was viewing the activities from her location. With Shido and the others, as they peacefully continue walking to the hot springs, he sees a missile dropping directly at them and exploding, with the ensuing explosion causing Yoshino to blast off and making Yoshino upset and cry. This causes the area to rain and freeze up due to her current mental state. Shido tries to calm her down, but Rin reminds Shido that only reuniting with Yoshinon is the only way she will calm down completely. Shido assures Yoshino that he will get Yoshinon back and they will be reunited again. Then he goes off to find the puppet. With the Fraxinus crew, Mikimoto asks what they should do now. Kotori asks if the AST have opened up a territory yet, to which Nakatsugawa confirms that they haven't. Kotori then gives the crew permission to use destroy mode. The crew then follows the command and has each of their traps simultaneously open fire on the AST, with some being captured but quickly broken free by Ryuko. She then asks herself why this is all happening and remembers the amount of stress she has endured today and eventually snaps, ordering her troops to return fire with everything they have and to not stop, completely having lost her mind. From afar, Shido sees the mayhem that is happening. He then continues onward to look for Yoshinon through the mayhem Ryuko is causing. Shido is able to find Yoshinon but looks up to see a giant bomb descending down on him. Kotori sees this and immediately orders her crew to stop the attack at once. Origami looks around and sees Shido as the bomb detonates. The Fraxinus crew's transmission is broken off due to the explosion. On the ground, Shido is luckily saved by Toka before the bomb exploded, who cast a spirit shield around them. Outside the shield, 3 of Ryuko's troops spot Toka with Origami, then come up and decide to attack once it disappears. But before she can, the shield, along with Shido and Toka, disappear from their sight. The 3 troops then wonder if all that happened today was because of the spirits. A while later, Ryuko happily announces that she now feels better after all that happened, standing on the wreckage of the incident. As her troops tiredly comment about this. As for Shido and the rest, they finally reach the hot springs, but then Yoshinon's head falls off and into the water, much to Yoshino's horror. Meanwhile, Ryuko and her troops also finally reach the hot springs, and as they are about to begin their relaxing time, the water of the hot springs freezes up, caused by Yoshino's reaction to what happened to Yoshinon. With the hot springs temporarily unusable, Kotori is suddenly contacted by Kanazuki, who reports that while he was digging during his punishment, he was somehow able to dig up the hot springs. Shido, Toka, Yoshino, and Kotori then used the new hot springs Kanazuki dug up instead. As they all relax in it, Kotori tells Shido that she will have something for him to do soon, with Shido sarcastically commenting on how good the day has been. In what seems to be a destroyed part of the city, Origami is facing off against a young girl wearing a CR unit that looks completely different from hers. With the rest of her own teammates down, Origami engages the girl. After distracting her, Origami goes on to attack her from behind, until the girl's territory protects her from Origami's attack. At that moment, a woman's voice says that time has run out, and it is all revealed to have been a practice match. Ryuko wonders in amazement how the girl managed to easily fight off 10 of her troops all by herself, before brushing it off that the girl has killed a spirit before. Later on, Ryuko has the girl introduce herself to her squad. The girl introduces herself as Mana Takamaya, a second lieutenant wizard. Afterward, Ryuko hits both Mana and Origami on their heads and asks both why they had to destroy the equipment they were using during the match, to which the two simply apologize to her. Ryuko then advises the two to not do so again, of a new transfer student that will be joining their class. She then asks the new student to come inside and introduce herself. The new student introduces herself as Kurumi Tokusaki and then immediately announces that she is a spirit, which catches Shido, Origami, and Toka by surprise at this. As Tame tells Kurumi to pick her seat, Kurumi then asks a favor from the class, if one of them could show her around due to her being new to the school. Tanamachi quickly raises his hand and volunteers but is turned down by Kurumi. She then walks towards Shido and asks if he could be the one to guide her around after class, which Shido reluctantly agrees to. At the Tengu Camp military base, Ryuko and fellow colleagues have just received reports that a spirit had recently transferred to Raisin High, with Mana adding this particular spirit is deadlier than the rest, revealing that this spirit has killed over 10,000 people just by herself, and even more with the addition of spacequake deaths. With the analysis of the spirit being completed, revealing the spirit's codename as Nightmare. Back with Shido, Kotori confirms to Shido that Kurumi is indeed a spirit and tells him to do his best to make her fall for him. Before the AST arrive and intervene, Kurumi calls Shido and asks if he is ready to show her around. The two then leave the classroom just as Toka and Origami watch. Aboard Fraxinus, Kotori and Kanazuki monitor Shido and Kurumi's activity, and from the screen Kurumi asks Shido where they should go first, prompting a decision for the Fraxinus crew to choose for Shido's reply. 1. The roof. 2. The nurse's office. Or 3. The cafeteria. After the voting process, number 1 gets a higher vote, but Kotori asks who voted for number 3, and Rin reveals that it was her vote. Upon being asked why, Rin explains her reason why, to which Kotori eventually agrees with and tells Shido to take Kurumi to the school cafeteria. From the classroom, Toka and Origami observe the two, with Toka wondering what Kurumi is planning with Shido, and Origami commenting, Shido is all his. At the school cafeteria, Shido shows Kurumi the lunch menu, which he explains to her. Kurumi then flirts with Shido, which Kotori tells him would be a bad thing for them if he falls for her. Shido and Kurumi then continue on, and a new decision appears for the crew to choose from. Kanazuki makes a decision at picking the third option, which is by having Kurumi reveal her panty, causing Kotori to have Kanazuki be taken away again. Kotori then wonders aloud how such a perverted option came up, but accidentally causes Shido to say it to Kurumi. Kotori then immediately tells Shido that was not his instructions and that he was supposed to ask her about being a spirit, but tells him to quickly change the subject. However, Kurumi asks Shido if he would like to take a peek, surprising Shido. She adds that she wouldn't mind so long as it was him, and she walks up the stairs next to them. Kurumi then slowly lifts her skirt up, but Shido then stops her and asks her what she meant earlier about her being a spirit herself. Kurumi then reveals to Shido that she knows all about him and knows about his recent dealings with the rest of the spirits, which catches Kotori and Rin's attention. Shido asks her how she knew about him, but Kurumi merely states that it is her secret on how. She adds, however, that ever since she first found out about him, she has had her eyes on him for a long time and had been hoping to finally be alone with him. Kurumi then takes Shido's hands and asks him if he could do a favor for her, but before she can state what it is, Toka and Origami fall out of a locker which they had been hiding in, revealing themselves, to Shido's surprise and Kurumi's amusement. When asked by Shido what they were doing, Toka says that she was only looking for him, and Origami quickly says that students are forbidden for holding hands at school, ordering Kurumi to let go of MC fast. Kurumi then playfully says that she only had a case of anemia and that Shido was only looking after her. Hearing this, Origami acts as though she also has the same illness to get Shido's attention. Toka gloats at Origami and Kurumi for their attempts, but also does the same, and at the same time, acts as though she has the same illness, but pronounces it wrong, which Shido corrects for. Unfortunately, Mai and me see what is happening and create another misunderstanding, to Shido's utter dismay. Later after school, Kurumi thanks Shido and Toka for showing her around the school, but whispers to Shido that next time she wishes it would be just the two of them alone. She then says goodbye to the two before running off. Shido then asks Toka where Origami is, with Toka responds that she doesn't know but thinks that she had already gone home by herself. Kurumi is then happily skipping on her way home until she bumps into a man and apologizes. Two more other men come out of an alley nearby, and the man tells Kurumi that she has to do more than apologize before they let her move along. Kurumi then realizes that the three men are planning on sexually assaulting her and plays along with an act of her own. She guides the three to the nearby alley, and suddenly, the three would-be rapists scream in terror as blood splatters on the ground. Within the alleyway, Kurumi is standing among the blood-stained alleyway and sadistically thanks the three for the meal. Suddenly, Mana appears before Kurumi and confronts her. Elsewhere, Shido and Toka have just finished grocery shopping and are on their way home. As they walk, Toka recommends something yummy to eat, with Kotori also agreeing. Just then, both Shido and Toka encounter Mana in front of them, with Mana surprised to finally see one of them. Shido then asks in confusion if Toka knows her, but she doesn't. All of a sudden, Mana runs up to Shido and hugs him. calling him her big brother to the complete surprise of Shido, Toka, and Kotori. Shido and Toka show Mana the Itsuka house where he currently lives and meets Kotori for the first time. As Shido, Kotori, and Mana sit, Yoshinan mentions how Shido and Mana look exactly alike, with Mana expressing how it shouldn't be a surprise since they are related after all. Shido then politely says to Mana that he doesn't remember her, to which Mana responds that she also does not remember anything from the past except a couple of years ago, with Shido asking if she also does not remember who their mother was, with Mana confirming that she doesn't. When Kotori asks how she would know that she and Shido are related, Mana shows them a locket containing a picture of her and Shido back when they were still kids. Shido is very shocked to see himself with Mana, while Kotori is in disbelief that the news is all true. Mana mentions how she was completely upset after Shido went off somewhere and that she worried about him every day. Ecstatic, Mana goes to hug MC but is interrupted by Kotori, who kicks Shido away. Both Shido and Mana demand why Kotori did that, to which Kotori reasons that Shido is her older brother too and that she doesn't want anyone to take him away from her. Mana understands and says that she wasn't planning to do such a thing, but utters that at the end of the day that she will still be Shido's biological little sister, causing an argument to erupt between her and Kotori. After the whole thing, both Kotori and Mana ask Shido who he thinks is the better little sister between them, which Shido dodges quickly and instead asks Mana if she lives alone. Mana answers that she lives with a group of people who she works with and then leaves afterward. The next day at school, Tame is checking the attendance, and when she calls out Kurumi's name, she gets no response when Toka says that she might be late. Origami suddenly voices out that Kurumi will no longer be attending their school. Just as Tame continues on, the class door opens and Kurumi appears, excusing herself for being late. MC then notices Origami reacting strangely to Kurumi's presence and gets a message from Kotori on his phone, asking him to meet her at the physics preparation room at lunchtime. Later at lunch, MC goes to the physics room, and when he asks Kotori why he asked him to come, Rin shows him surveillance footage from yesterday, where he sees Mana confronting Kurumi with Origami and the AST nearby. In the video feed, both Mana and Kurumi equip their CR unit and astral dress respectively, which astonishes MC. As he continues watching, Kurumi is quickly blasted by Mana, wounding her, and when she tries to get back up to face her, she is once again shot, mortally wounding her and knocking her out. Mana then moves in closer to Kurumi and finishes her off by decapitating her, which visibly horrifies MC. Rin then says that Kurumi was killed by Mana and the AST yesterday, noting that Kurumi should be dead. MC confusingly says it's not possible as she is currently in their class, so they wonder how she is still alive. Meanwhile, Origami confronts Kurumi alone near the school's rooftop, and Origami tells her that she should be dead. Kurumi then restrains Origami with her shadow hands, casually remarking at how easily she, Mana, and the AST dealt with her the day before, but then reminds her that she isn't dead anymore. When Origami demands what she is gonna do to her, Kurumi then mentions how fun being at school has been for her, but mentions that that is not the reason she is there, but rather, MC is the reason she is there. Kurumi then threatens Origami to never get in her way toward MC, maniacally laughing to Origami that she wants MC all to herself. After class, MC goes to Kurumi and invites her on a date with him, which she happily accepts. As she leaves, MC remembers what he, Kotori, and Rin talked about concerning Kurumi. Earlier, both Kotori and Rin report to MC that the day before, the AST had found a spirit and killed her, with the killed spirit being Kurumi. But MC tells the two that Kurumi had just arrived at class earlier, with the three then beginning to wonder how she survived being killed. As he ponders over this and tells himself that he can't let Kurumi go, Origami then confronts him of what he meant by this, having heard what he just said. Demanding an explanation, however, MC excuses himself from her and leaves. Origami then remembers her previous confrontation with Kurumi. Earlier during this, Origami is still restrained by Kurumi, who then contemplates on devouring her but then settles on saving her for later once she is done with MC first. She then lets her go and vanishes, leaving Origami alone. In the present, Origami says MC's name in worry. After school, MC and Toka are on their way back home after buying some groceries. MC apologizes to her for not showing up at lunch earlier, and then asks if she at least had a chance to eat. Toka sadly responds she did. Remembering earlier at lunch, Toka has not actually touched her bento even though she is already hungry, still waiting for MC to return. Toka then wonders where MC is and starts to cry. Mai and me then enter the classroom holding 2 tickets. The trio then notice Toka and ask her why she hasn't eaten her lunch yet, but find her deeply upset and ask her what's wrong. Toka answers that she is still waiting for MC and mentions how she and him have not really talked much today, saying that the thought made her feel sad all of a sudden. Toka then cries, but Mai and me comfort her, with the 3 blaming MC for being the reason she is upset. Toka then tries to explain that MC didn't do anything wrong. Avin tells her that they know and tells her not to be sad as they can help her. In the present, MC and Toka arrive back at the Itsuka household, and as MC walks to the kitchen to prepare dinner, Toka mysteriously locks the door behind her and closes the curtains as well. In the living room and kitchen, MC asks Toka if she wants to go home first, but gets no response. MC goes to her and asks her again, but gets no reply. Instead, Toka unbuttons her uniform and crawls on the ground with the tickets in her mouth. MC, completely confused at the situation, falls back to the coach and asks Toka what she is doing. Not getting an answer, MC once again asks what is going on. Toka then sits up and reads a small note. She then puts the ticket between her cleavage and then asks MC if he could go on a date with her tomorrow. MC, still all confused, accepts and takes the tickets, to which Toka reacts to very happily. Toka then instructs MC to meet her by the Tenga station at 10 a.m. and happily leaves. MC then notices the note Toka had and bitterly reacts upon reading the instructions on it. He then gets a phone call from Origami and is asked on a date with her at Tenga station at 11 a.m. Before MC can talk to her more, Origami hangs up, forcing him to book a triple date with all 3 of them. The next day at Tenga Station, MC waits for Toka just as Kotori chides him for being triple booked on an important day, referring to his date with Kurumi. MC then says that she was the one who told him not to cancel out on both Toka and Origami. Kotori reminds him that if he does not keep his promises to Toka, her happiness meter will immediately drop, and warns him that if he cancels on Origami, she will grow more and more suspicious, but reassures MC that she and the Fraxinus will be behind him and helping him out all the way. After much waiting, Toka arrives wearing a very cute outfit in which Rein reveals she was the one who picked it for her. MC then compliments Toka on her outfit, and she, though embarrassed, demands they go now. MC follows, asking her if she knows where she is going. Just as they leave, the crew spots Origami, who has arrived an hour early than expected. Toka then asks MC what an aquarium is. MC explains, but Toka immediately thinks of it as fish for food, and MC says otherwise. As the 2 reach the aquarium, Kurumi appears at the station 10 minutes early than expected, something that Kotori slightly remarks on. Inside the aquarium, Toka is quickly astonished by the sea creatures she sees and asks MC to come along with her to see more of them ahead. Kotori then contacts MC to meet Kurumi now, and that Fraxinus will pick him up to see her. MC then fakes having a stomach ache and excuses himself from Toka. Outside, MC finds a secluded area and is teleported by Fraxinus near the station, where MC hurries to meet Kurumi. He arrives and apologizes to her for being late. Kurumi then asks where they should go first, prompting a decision for the Fraxinus crew to choose from. 1. Go around the shopping mall. 2. Watch a romantic movie. Or 3. Go to a lingerie shop. The crew chooses, and both options 1 and 2 receive the same amount of votes. Kotori says that both are not really bad choices, but Kanazuki states how both choices are connected to the station and the aquarium, saying how the chances of MC running into either Toka or Origami are low, but says that the lingerie shop may be a good option. Kotori is skeptical, But Rain mentions that the day before, MC had accidentally asked Kurumi to show her panties to him, and she did so without any problem. Kotori smirks and makes the call to MC, who reacts to the choice with shock and says it out loud by mistake. Kurumi then tells him that if that's what he wants, she wouldn't mind going to one. The two head out and find one near the station. Kurumi is in wonder at the many brands she sees and goes to pick a couple. She then asks MC which one would suit her, starting another choice for Fraxinus to choose from. After the choice is made, Kotori instructs MC to go with the third option and MC hesitantly does so. He then points Kurumi to the other lingerie piece, which is a far more revealing one than the two she picked. Kurumi asks if he thinks she will look better in that one than the two she picked, and MC stutters that he just thought she would look great in it. Kurumi easily complies, picks it up, and goes to try it on in the changing room. A moment later, the changing room opens and reveals Kurumi wearing the lingerie, and she asks MC what he thinks. But before he can answer, he gets interrupted by those annoying trios. They ask why he is with Kurumi. Kotori then contacts MC and tells him that he needs to leave quickly to meet Origami, but do not leave Kurumi without complimenting her. MC then fakes another stomach ache, compliments Kurumi, and makes a break for it as the annoying trio chase after him. Meanwhile, at the Tenga military base, Mana is being attended to by a group of scientists. As they work on her wiring suit, back with MC, he is able to lose the trio and meet up with Origami at the station, but apologizes for being really late. MC then asks her where they shall go and Origami says they gonna see movie. The two stop at a restaurant to eat lunch first. During that, MC asks Origami why she asked him out on a date all of a sudden. She responds saying she just didn't want him to be by himself and asks MC that after movie, he should come to her place. MC asks why. Origami answers he should stay at her place for the time being. Back at Fraxinus, Kotori is alerted by her crew of Toka, who has now left the aquarium to look for MC. At the restaurant again, as MC and Origami eat, he sees Toka outside running around looking for him, causing him to nearly choke on his food and excuse himself from Origami. Toka is then called out by MC and she is in relief to find him and her stomach growls, meaning that she is now hungry. MC then invites Toka to have lunch with him and she happily accepts. As they eat at a sushi restaurant, Kurumi waits outside the lingerie store for MC to return. Back with MC and Toka, he feigns another stomachache and excuses himself from her and is immediately transported to Kurumi. MC is then surprised to know from Kurumi that she bought the lingerie she tried out with her, saying that she bought it because of his compliment on her for wearing it. As the triple date continues, MC also tries to evade being seen by I, Mai, and Me, but is luckily aided by Yoshino in every corner, though Yoshino eventually gets tired and she is teleported back to Fraxinus where Rin picks her up. Later on, MC yet again excuses himself from Kurumi for a bathroom break, with Kurumi noting how MC's constant runoffs are a bit of a downer on their date. Sitting on a nearby bench, Kurumi says to herself how soon MC will finally be all hers. While getting a drink, Kurumi hears a kitten nearby. In the woods, a bunch of delinquents are terrorizing a small kitten with pellet guns, which Kurumi interrupts but asks if she could join in on them. Her request is welcomed and Kurumi then suggests that they now change their targets. In Fraxinus, the airship's video feed on her suddenly goes out. Meanwhile, while looking for MC, Toka bumps into Origami where the two immediately bicker at each other yet again, and the two then proclaim that they are looking for MC, confusing both of them at what the other just said. Both then start to accuse each other of lying about being on a date with MC, as both also claim to be on a date with him until Origami realizes that MC could be all by himself right now and runs off to look for him, with Toka following her. At the park, MC returns to where Kurumi was sitting and is then contacted by Kotori and tells him that they lost sight of Kurumi, but is quickly told by the Fraxinus crew that Kurumi is still nearby and he goes to find her. In the woods of the park, MC walks around looking for her, but to his and Kotori's horror find the nearby area splattered in fresh trails of blood. Unable to bear the sight, MC begins to panic as Kotori tries to tell him to calm down. As MC kneels down in terror, a familiar voice calls out to him. He looks up and finds Kurumi wearing a different attire and her left eye with a gold clock in it, aiming a gun at one of the delinquents who begs MC to save him. Kurumi then chides the surviving delinquents for trying to kill a helpless creature before finally killing him mercilessly. As MC continues to look on in horror, Kotori snaps him out of it and tells him to get out of there. Kurumi then summons a bunch of shadowy hands and grabs MC by his legs, preventing him from escaping. MC tells Kurumi to let him go, but the latter can only playfully complain how she wanted their date to last longer as she walks close to MC. Kurumi then holds MC and prepares to kill him as well, but is then thrown around the area to a nearby tree. Luckily saved, at that moment Mana appears and asks MC if he is okay. Seeing her attire, MC is bewildered by her appearance. Directly after the previous episode, Mana asks a bewildered MC if he is alright. Kurumi then remarks on how Mana rudely interrupted her and MC's date. Mana asks MC to wait for a bit as she deals with Kurumi, whom she open fires at with finger-guided laser beams. Kurumi dodges but is eventually hit, mortally wounding her. Mana walks over to Kurumi just as MC asks Mana not to kill her. Severely wounded, Kurumi weakly says how good MC truly is before she is killed by Mana. Distressed over what just happened, MC tells Mana she could just easily kill someone and stand there as if nothing happened, but Mana corrects him by saying that she killed a spirit and that it is her duty to do so. Afterwards, Mana comments on how he might have already learning a few things about her from origami and asks MC to pretend that he didn't see anything and forget what happened as she states that Kurumi won't stay dead forever, shocking MC. Mana adds that no matter how many times Kurumi is killed, she will still come back and continue to kill as many people as possible. Mana reveals that she has killed Kurumi many times before, over and over again, and she will continue to do so just as MC yells at her to shut up. MC then asks her if she has gotten used to killing, saying that he doesn't like hearing her talk in that manner, which Mana says that it is a job that only she can do before using a territory to push MC back out of the woods. As she stands next to Kurumi's mutilated corpse, Mana remembers MC asking her why and she says that she doesn't know why before having a minor headache. Then she hears someone's voice, and as she looks around, she finds the earpiece MC was wearing on the ground as she hears someone's voice telling MC to abort the mission. Back at the station, Toka and Origami are running around looking for MC, until they, fortunately, spot him walking alone. Toka and Origami ask him what happened and Toka notices a bruise on MC's right hand. MC notices it as well and remembers the horror from earlier and immediately jerks his hand away from Toka, who asks if she made it hurt more. MC says that she didn't and then apologizes before running off from the two. As he walks back home alone, MC sees Toka waiting for him and calls her, and Toka asks if his hand is feeling okay now and he confirms. Toka then says that they can go now, taking MC's hand and running off with him, with MC asks where they are going and she answers that they are continuing their date. In town, MC and Toka are at a restaurant, with MC commenting that he doesn't have enough to cover for their meal, but Toka reveals that Rin let her borrow her credit card, to MC's chagrin. As their date continues, Toka also reveals that Rin told her about him, Mana and Kurumi and MC, then asks if she now knows that. He has to stop Kurumi from killing more people and Toka confirms. MC tells her that she is unsure of what to do with Kurumi, saying how she's different from her and Yoshino. Toka interrupts, saying that it isn't true. She states that she and Kurumi are the same, reminding MC that she had him there by her side, how he saved her and asked her out on a date, saying that because of him, he showed her how wonderful the world can be. Toka says that if it wasn't for him, she would have likely ended up in the same state as Kurumi right now. His confidence is brought back. MC thanks Toka for reminding him what's important, and when Toka asks him if he isn't scared anymore, MC is still unsure, but she says she will be there to protect him. MC thanks her for her support. The next day, MC is greeted by Kurumi. Mai and Mi then try to interrupt but are asked by Toka to leave them alone. Kurumi says how she figured he wouldn't have gone to school today because of the incident yesterday. admitting that she is surprised he even showed up. MC then tells Kurumi his decision of saving her, which momentarily surprises Kurumi. MC says that he won't let her kill anymore, but he won't let Mana kill her as well, which Kurumi simply comments on before walking away. As the day continues, Kurumi is on the rooftop of the school, suddenly unleashing her astral dress and using her spirit powers to cover the entire school. Elsewhere, Mana has met up with Kotori and finds out that she and MC are allied to Rafatosker, which Kotori remarks her for. Kotori then asks her what she wants and Mana says that it is about MC. Mana rebukes Kotori's choice of allowing MC to up against the spirits without anything to defend himself, saying that Kotori has failed to be MC's little sister and that she will take over from now on. Kotori retorts by saying that she won't allow an organization like Deus Ex Machina to get their hands on him, which catches Mana by surprise, asking Kotori how she knew. Kotori reveals that she knows that all of the military forces around the world uses realizers, pointing out that Mana as an employee from them sent to work for the AST. A flashback from some time ago, Rin reveals to Kotori what she found out about Mana. She tells her that Mana's body has been filled with far too much magical power, telling her that Mana has only 10 years left to live. Kotori then asks if she really doesn't know until Kotori gets a call on her phone. She is reported about an intense spirit wave at Raisin High, with Kurumi being the one responsible. Both Mana and Kotori then leave to help Shido. Back at the school, Rin tells Shido that a barrier has been projected around the school, one that debilitates those within it, and Shido asks why Kurumi would do this. A voice then calls out to Shido, and he turns around to find Toka, and he asks her if she is okay. Toka tells him that her body feels a bit weak, and Shido asks Reina why he is the only one who isn't fully affected by the barrier. Reina deduces that due to him having sealed Toka and Yoshino's spirit powers, their powers seem to have automatically protected him from the effects of the barrier itself. The school speakers then ring and Kurumi's voice is heard, playfully telling Shido to meet her at the roof of the school. Shido then tells Toka to stay and rest as he goes to face Kurumi alone. Meanwhile, Origami, who is unaffected by the barrier, equips a realizer and goes to find Kurumi. Shido arrives at the rooftop and is greeted by Kurumi. As Origami runs around the school while requesting backup from Ryuko, she encounters Kurumi, who asks where she is going. Origami declares that she will protect Shido from her and releases her energy blade to engage her. Back with Toka, she weakly tries to stand up and follow where Shido ran to, but falls to the floor. As she lays on the floor, she refuses to let Shido be in danger and begins to manifest a portion of her astral dress, astonishing her, but is cut short when someone fires a bullet at her, which she quickly dodges in time. Demanding to know who was the culprit, another Kurumi appears and greets her. At the rooftop, Shido asks Kurumi what she is doing, and she explains that the barrier surrounding the school sucks up the time from everyone caught within it. Shido notices her golden clock eye reversing and Kurumi reveals that it is her time or her lifespan. She tells Shido that her angel drains her own time whenever she uses it, but can replenish it by taking away other people's time, calling everyone else as mere prey to her but notes Shido as being special. She states that he is the reason why she is here and that her goal is to become one with and devour him. Shido then tells her to just take him and to stop hurting everyone else. Kurumi considers it, but she asks Shido to take back what he said to her earlier, citing that he can't save her now at this point. She adds that someone as diabolically awful as her does not deserve mercy or to be saved, reiterating that she will kill him but wants him to take back what he said before she can bring the barrier down. Shido asks Kurumi to get rid of the barrier, but says that he won't give up on saving her, shocking Kurumi, who asks him why he is so persistent. Kurumi then steps back and suddenly the spacequake alarms set off, which Kurumi asks Shido if he knows what it means, and he realizes what she is doing. Kanazuki and Reine are also alerted of the quake from within Fraxinus. Kanazuki is skeptical if she can, but Reine says that Kurumi is summoning a spacequake on purpose. Kurumi then playfully asks what Shido will now do if the spacequake were to hit. As Shido thinks, Rainy reports to him that Kurumi's emotional state has changed, stating that she has strangely become afraid of him, giving Shido an idea. He demands that Kurumi stop the spatial quake at once, saying that if she doesn't, he will jump off the roof and commit suicide. Kurumi calls it a bluff, but Shido leans back and allows himself to fall. As he falls, Kurumi immediately comes to his rescue and brings him back to the rood, where she angrily chides him for his foolish attempt. Shido then remarks to her that since he has a lot of worth to her as a hostage, he demands that he stop the spatial quake and take the barrier down, otherwise he will try to kill himself again. Kurumi reluctantly does what he asks. Shido says that there is still one more thing. She lets him save her. Kurumi tells him that she isn't worth the trouble, but Shido says otherwise, telling her that she can still change, reminding her of how much fun she had on their date. When Kurumi tries to deny, Shido yells aloud that he can help her. He continues, it does not matter what she has done, saying that nothing will give him a reason not to save her. Not knowing what she will do, Shido then extends his hand to her. She extends hers to him. But as both their hands are about to meet, a hand goes through Kurumi, mortally wounding her, with Shido reacting in complete shock. Kurumi's voice is then heard, telling herself that they can't allow herself to fall for Shido. The dying Kurumi weakly thanks Shido and dies off. He is then met by the real Kurumi, revealing to Shido that she had a clone of hers do this, but notes that she may have chosen the wrong one, as the dead Kurumi clone is taken by Kurumi's shadow hands. The real Kurumi then summons more and captures Shido, preventing him from moving. As Kurumi moves her hand close to Shido, her hand is suddenly sliced off. Mana then arrives in time to defend Shido from her, but Kurumi states that this time she won't die and that Mana won't live, summoning her angel Zafkiel behind her. Kurumi uses her angel's power to heal her amputated arm, bring it back in place as remarking it as her turning back time, and prompts Mana to fight her. Mana retorts that she will just kill her like she usually does, but Kurumi, using her angel, teleports beside and shoots Mana. She recovers and goes to attack Kurumi, but is immediately stopped in when Kurumi uses her angel once again to stop her in her tracks and promptly shoots her multiple times before letting her go as Mana drops down but still alive. Toka and Origami then arrive and say that they will stop her. Kurumi merely brushes it off as she summons her shadow clones, with Shido asking in abject terror of what is happening. Kurumi then tells him that her clones are a fragment of her past, explaining to him and Mana why she can never be fully eliminated, and then has her clones hold Shido and Toka, Origami, and Mana down at her clones' mercy. Has way to fully make Shido understand why she can never be someone he should save, Kurumi summons a spacequake over the school, intending to kill everyone but sparing Shido, wanting him to carry the pain of 1,000 people's deaths. Kotori appears on the battlefield and Shido begs her not to, but Kurumi inevitably summons one that begins to form over the school. Just then, the spacequake is obliterated by an unknown force, to Kurumi's confusion. A familiar voice then explains that a spacequake can be neutralized by an equal enough force, and when Shido, Toka, Origami, and Kurumi look up, they see Kotori surrounded in flames and wearing a strange dress. Shido is left shocked at the sight of his little sister, realizing that she is also a spirit. Kotori then says that she will give the power back to Shido, and she summons her angel Kamale, asking if those present are prepared to begin their date. Continuing where the previous episode left off, Kurumi, her clones, and Shido are all looking at Kotori, who is wearing peculiar dress while being surrounded by flames. Origami takes notice of her appearance in bewilderment before she falls unconscious from the grip of one of the clones. Shido is in disbelief in realizing that his sister is a spirit as well. Kurumi then resummons her angel Zafkiel and prompts Kotori to battle her as she descends down to face Kurumi. Kurumi then has her clones charge at Kotori, who she simply takes care of by setting them ablaze with her angel, Kamale, and then going after the two clones holding Shido captive, taking them out as well and freeing Shido from their grasp. Kotori then goes to defend her brother from Kurumi, who summons Zafkiel and uses the first bullet, Aleph, to teleport near and attack Kotori, who is able to quickly defend herself from her attacks as Kurumi continues to repeatedly attack her. Kurumi steps back from her counterattack, summons Zafkiel again and uses the 7th bullet, Zayin, at Kotori, freezing her in time and then summoning her clones to all shoot at Kotori. Kurumi then walks in front of Kotori and delivers the final shot to her head as Kotori falls dead on the floor, with Kurumi laughing at her. Just then, Kotori's injuries start to fade as she heals with her spirit powers and gets back up. As Kurumi is surprised over her injuries being fully healed, Kotori taunts Kurumi for being unable to kill her. Kurumi then summons her angel again and uses the 1st bullet again on her clones and on herself. The clones then all appear surrounding Shado, but Kotori quickly pushes him out of the way and the clones overwhelm her instead. Unfazed by this, Kotori breaks herself free using her angel and takes out all of the clones and injuring Kurumi as well. Frustrated, Kurumi heals herself by using the 4th bullet delete of her angel. Kotori then intimidates Kurumi for becoming tired in their battle, and Kurumi threatens Kotori for ever messing with someone like her as she calls for her angel once again. As Kotori gets herself ready, she feels a sharp pain in her head, causing Shido to run to her side. Kurumi laughs at Kotori's situation, but the latter then looks back at her in anger and summons her angel's next form, Megiddo, a big cannon formed from Kamale, and begins to power it up with her flames. Momentarily afraid, Kurumi has her clones surround her, using them as shields against Kotori's attack. Kotori then locks on the clones and fires a devastating shot, taking out all of the clones and damaging a portion of Kurumi's own angel. Kurumi then falls to her knees as Kotori demands she pick up her weapons and continue to fight her, taunting her for craving destruction but now being unable to face a powerful opponent in a battle she wanted. Kotori then tells Kurumi that if she can't face her, then she must die, powering up Megiddo again as Shido tells her this isn't the way to do it, reminding her that Ratatosker's goal is to save and protect the spirits and not kill them, asking her to stop. Shido then notices the look on Kotori's face, realizing she's lost to the fury of herself and her angel. Shido runs in front of Kurumi, intending to shield her from the oncoming attack as Kurumi weakly begs Shido not to do it. As Megiddo is about to fire the shot, Kotori snaps back to herself, but her angel fires at Shido, whom she cries for. As Shido is seemingly hit by the attack, his vision transitions to what seems to be the past, with him lying on the ground badly injured. He weakly looks up and sees a younger Kotori in her astral dress crying as roaring flames surround her and himself. Kotori then notices him and tearfully calls to Shido until he passes out. As Shido lays unconscious, he hears 2 familiar voices. It's Yoshino and Yoshinon. He has woken up and seems to have recovered, finding himself in bed within Fraxinus Infirmary. Yoshino then leaves after apologizing for disturbing Shido, and he looks around and sees Toka fall asleep beside his bed and then wonders how he got here. Rain then appears and reveals to him that during the battle against Kurumi, he got knocked out and he was brought to Fraxinus to help him recover. Shido says that he doesn't know what happened after the battle, frantically asking about Toka's condition and Kotori's whereabouts. Rain advises that he calm down, but Shido presses his concern, asking about Mana and everyone else at Raisin High until he is abruptly stopped when Reine hugs him, repeating her request for him to calm down. After settling down, Reine tells him that everyone was safe and nobody was killed. However, she tells Shido that both Origami and Mana were taken by the AST to a hospital after the fight, whereas Kurumi was able to flee. Reine adds that Toka, despite being injured the fight herself, wanted to stay by his side to watch him recover, but she reassures Shido that Toka will be fine. Shido asks to see Kotori, so Reine takes him to her. Somewhere on board Fraxinus, Reine shows Kotori inside a glass-protected containment room, telling Shido that Kotori can't see them through the protective barrier and asks him to be careful when talking to her. Shido goes inside and is greeted by Kotori, who is happy to see her brother having made a recovery. Kotori asks him how he is doing, so Shido tells her that he is fine as he sits on the opposite side of the table from Kotori. As he asks his little sister if she is okay, Kotori assures him that she is doing well. Shido then proceeds to ask her if she is indeed a spirit. Meanwhile, at Tengu Hospital, Mana is shown unconscious from the fight against Kurumi. Back with Shido and Kotori, the latter asks if she were to tell him that she was a spirit, would he believe her, and Shido answers that he would if she did, but Kotori still thinks otherwise. Shido tells her that if he were unable to trust his own little sister, then he would be no good of an older brother, and reassures Kotori that he will believe her no matter what, which seems to lighten up Kotori a bit. Kotori then talks about how she is sure that she is human and that she wouldn't consider herself a spirit, but notes how evidence may prove otherwise. She adds that she knows she was born a human under the Itsuka family, but adds that somehow 5 years ago she turned into a spirit, or, as she says, a person who possesses the power of a spirit, which shocks Shido and tells Kotori that somehow he knew as well. Kotori asks him how as he never told him anything about this, but Shido reveals to her of a dream he had where he was running to Kotori, but was burned by her on accident as she cries to him. Kotori is in disbelief by this, but says that that is how she vaguely remembers it as well, pointing to the possibility that Shido may have known through the flow of Reiryoku that returned to her. Confused, Shido asks how she even became a spirit, which Kotori says that even she can't remember how, but knows that something may have happened in the past that caused her to become one. Shido asks her how she can forget, which Kotori fires back at him for also forgetting, but ponders how neither of them can remember. Kotori theorizes that something or someone may have erased their memories of it prior to being found by Ratatosper, where she then decided to save other spirits, just as Toka wakes up and finds Shido is gone and goes looking for him. Shido then asks how she was able to live normally among other people, which Kotori points out to him that she able to do so as he had already sealed her powers at that point in the past. Shido then realizes that his regenerative healing powers came from Kotori. Kotori then asks him to come in front of her, and when Shido does, she suddenly punches Shido in the stomach. As he kneels down in pain, Kotori then angrily asks him why he stepped in her line of fire during the battle against Kurume, telling Shido that had she not snapped back to her senses, he would be dead by now. Shido responds that he thought she lost it and corrects her that she indeed lost her senses. Kotori then says that when her spirit powers returned to her, she began to lose control over herself with only the thought of destruction stuck in her mind at that time. Terrified, she begins to think about the possibility of having done something horrific already, but Shido snaps her out of it. Shido asks if her spirit powers will return to him. Kotori replies that she is unsure but gives the idea that Shido will have to seal it just like before, take her out on a date and make her fall in love with him. Suddenly, Kotori falls on her knees and Shido goes to her side. Reina comes in to check up on her and tells Shido that he can leave Kotori in her care for now despite Shido's protest. As he leaves, Toka finds him and asks him if he's okay now, but Shido sadly asks her if they could talk later as he is unsure if he is okay. Later, Reina warns Shido alone about Kotori and her spirit powers returning to her. She tells Shido that in 2 days that he should take Kotori out on a date and do whatever he can in order to seal her powers again. Otherwise, Kotori may no longer be the same as Shido knows her. Later that day, Shido heads to Tengu Hospital to visit Mana, but is prevented from doing so when the staff inform him that no one is allowed to visit her, even if they were her family. Origami then appears and calls out to Shido, who notices her and asks how she is doing. Assuring him that she is fine, she asks him about Toka, and when he replies that she is okay, Origami gives off a visible growl. Shido tells Origami that he came to visit Mana, but was unable to do so as the nurse told him he was not allowed. Origami tells him that the staff had been using highly classified tech to help her recover, voicing out that she may not be allowed to have visitors until she is moved to a different ward, warning Shido not to see her by force as it may not end well. Origami states that she also knows that Shido only came to visit Mana and not her despite Shido's attempt to say otherwise. Shido decides to leave, but Origami feigns falling down and asks Shido to carry her back to her room. When Shido tries to get her a nurse in a wheelchair, Origami persists that he carries her on his back. Unable to reject, Shido reluctantly carries Origami on his back. As he carries her back, Origami begins to get a bit touchy-feely with Shido, who tries to ask her to stop. After an embarrassing trek, Shido is able to get Origami back to her room, and when he once again decides to leave, Origami asks him to peel her an apple and feed her despite Shido's protest. After a very weird moment of feeding her, Shido once again tries to leave, but is yet again stopped by Origami, who asks her to check her temperature for her. When he tries to, Origami puts herself in a position with Shido that highly embarrasses him. Afterwards, Shido then decides to leave finally, but Origami asks him one last thing before he does. She asks Shido to tell her what happened with the fight against Kurumi. Origami describes the new spirit she saw as one that was surrounded in flames which she could manipulate, saying that that was the last thing she saw before passing out and waking up in the hospital, demanding Shido that he tell her every single detail, significant or not. Shido lies to her that he also got knocked out during the fight, but asks Origami if she knew the flame spirit's identity, to which she responds that she does. She begins to tell her a tragedy that happened 5 years ago in Tangdu City when a massive fire broke out in a small neighborhood where she lived, revealing that she saw her own parents be burned alive by the fire spirit's flames. Much to Shido's shock, Origami reveals that ever since then, she joined the AST and became obsessed with hunting her down for revenge. Origami says that she vowed on that day that she would kill the flame spirit no matter what. With this opportunity now in her hands, she will do everything she can to get her revenge. After visiting Origami, Shido remembers what Origami said about the tragic incident that killed her parents in Tangdu City 5 years ago. As he does, he also recalls what Kotori said about the possibility of hurting someone on the day she became a spirit. Shido stops walking and remarks to himself that he will never know what truly happened during that incident unless he and Kotori remember everything. At Tanggu Hospital, Ryuko visits Origami after having heard that she can be discharged the next day. However, she still advises Origami to take an extra day off. As Ryuko leaves, she tells Origami of some new equipment being brought to their base, but warns her on what it might be. Aboard Fraxinus, Shido is called by Reine and Kanazuki, with both advising him to take Kotori to Ocean Park for their date. As usual, Kanazuki displays his perverted tendencies by being somewhat jealous of Shido over the possibility that he may see Kotori in a swimsuit, which causes Shido to tell him not to say that out loud. Rain then tells Shido that she has prepared an arranged training for him in preparation for his date, to which Shido immediately accepts so long as he can save Kotori. The next day, Shido brings Toka and Yoshino to a swimsuit store to help them buy their own swimsuits, which is a task that causes Shido to sigh in discomfort. As Toka and Yoshino look around the store, Shido contacts Reine and asks her how buying swimsuits is considered training for him. Reine answers that it's training to get him used to being around other girls in different types of swimwear. This is done to ensure that he doesn't get distracted during his date with Kotori. Shido reiterates that Kotori is in danger, but ends up unintentionally staring at one of the swimsuit designs on a model, which Reina calls him out for letting his attention waver. She reminds him that his heart rate is being monitored, causing Shido to nervously accept the conditions of his training. Toka points at a set of swimsuits and asks Shido if all of them really are called swimsuits, which Shido confirms. As Toka asks what a swimsuit is supposed to be used for, a familiar voice explains that it is a new kind of battle gear meant to use against spirits. The voice is Origami, who says this to both Toka and Yoshino as a lie. Unsure, Toka asks Shido if he brought her and Yoshino just to make them wear something that can kill them. Origami continues her lie by saying that Shido did plan on it, but Toka refuses to believe her. However, she still asks Shido why he would do such a thing to her and Yoshino, revealing that she somewhat fell for Origami's lie. Shido clears it up to her and says that Origami was only making it sound like he meant it. Embarrassed, Toka quickly diverts her attention to Origami for trying to trick them. Shido asks Origami why she was here and asks if her injuries are now okay. Origami answers that she was just passing by, but claims that she came by to talk to Toka. She inquires Toka about the flame spirit from the day before, noting that she is certain that Toka saw who the spirit was and asks her if she could give her information on her identity. However, Toka withholds from telling Origami anything. Origami responds by begging Toka to tell her, much to the surprise of Shido, Yoshino, and Toka, with the latter asking her to stop begging. Origami only says that she is merely asking her to speak what she knows about the spirit, once again make a plea to Toka by bowing her head. The act visibly creeps out both Toka and Yoshino. Toka decides to tell her on the condition that she stops begging. Toka begins to tell her what she saw of the flame spirit, with Shido visibly worried that she may give too much information, but luckily Toka begins to describe said spirit in vague details, which Origami then just dismisses as useless information, much to Toka's annoyance. This causes Toka to remark that she did what was asked of her, and Origami is being ungrateful. Origami then tells Shido that the only swimwear in her possession is the one from their swim team. Shido suggests that she buy a new one while she is at the store, but Origami points out that it might be difficult without someone else's opinion. Therefore, she asks Shido if he could help her. Toka then challenges Origami to a swimsuit battle, declaring that whoever wins gets to have a date with Shido later on. Shido is uncomfortable with the decision, but Reine advises to him to just work with it. Both Toka and Origami then begin their swimsuit battle, with both doing their best to make Shido's heart race for themselves. Toka first shows her try on a white one-piece swimsuit, one that Kanazuki pleasantly comments on. Toka asks Shido what he thinks and Shido nervously says that it looks good on her, to Toka's delight. However, Origami then shows her swimsuit, which causes Shido to become speechless, much to Toka's displeasure, and immediately goes on to try a much more revealing one, which she tries to cover, feeling a bit embarrassed herself. Origami then comes out again, this time wearing her usual clothing, and walks towards Shido and motions his hand on her skirt, telling him to take her clothes off to Shido's confusion. Shido tries avert doing so, but eventually Origami makes him do so, taking her clothes off and revealing her swimsuit under her clothes, a tactic which Kanazuki also comments pleasantly on. Suddenly, the three hear Yoshino crying for help in one of the stalls. Shido goes to find out what's going on. As he opens the curtain stall, to everyone's surprise, they find Yoshino struggling to put on her swimsuit. This leaves Shido speechless, but it also causes his heartbeat to pass the measured threshold, thus making Yoshino the winner of the battle. On board Fraxinus, Kanazuki asks Shido if he is okay now and if he can handle what's next. Shido confirms that he is, saying that he is ready for the date with Kotori and intends to save her no matter what. Shido, however, wishes that he can remember what happened 5 years ago, voicing out that if he can remember how he sealed Kotori's powers, things would be easier. Kanazuki then suddenly offers to show him the footage of the incident, which surprises Shido to know that they have such a convenient recording. Kanazuki explains that the footage came from a local news network that never aired this particular video, but luckily Ratatosker was able to cover it up. Inspecting the footage, Kanazuki shows Shido the moment Kotori became a spirit. Looking closely, Shido quickly sees a strange entity next to Kotori and immediately asks Kanazuki to pause the video. Shido points at the blurry entity next to Kotori, which Kanazuki seems to not notice. The sight of the entity causes Shido to have a rapid flashback of Kotori surrounded in flames and turning into a spirit, which leads him to fall unconscious. The next day at the time of the date, Kanazuki calls Shido and apologizes for what happened yesterday, as he didn't mean to cause him harm by showing the video. However, Shido says that it's fine and requests they talk later after his date with Kotori. Rain then informs him that Kotori is nearby and on her way to him. Shortly after, Kotori arrives as Shido greets her. She then complains a little that he has forgotten to compliment her outfit, which prompts Shido to do so. Kotori then asks Shido that they start their date already. But before they do, Shido hears two familiar voices excited for the trip. He turns around and to his surprise find both Toka and Yoshino. Rain reveals that she decided that it would be better that the two tagged along with them, which Kotori notes to Shido as a surprise from him. Toka and Yoshino then say that they brought their swimsuits along, which Kotori becomes suspicious of Shido for. At the ocean park, Toka immediately becomes excited at seeing the different kinds of pools and slides present and eagerly asks Shido if she and Yoshino can go swim at one of them, which Shido gives her the go-ahead for. Without a moment's hesitation, Toka and Yoshino rush toward the pool. Kotori then comes in wearing her swimsuit, which Shido looks at, something that Kotori calls him out for, asking if he is now checking his own sister, which Shido denies. Rain advises to Shido to compliment Kotori on her swimsuit. But when he does, Kotori asks if either Raine or Kanazuki told him to say that to her. When Shido says it was all him, she asks him out of nowhere of what he likes about her swimsuit, which prompts a choice from the crew in Fraxinus to choose. When the results are displayed, most of the crew agree on choosing option 1, but Kanazuki suddenly commands that Shido go with option 3, to the surprise of the crew. Shido compliments Kotori in how her swimsuit lets her chest fill the top, causing Kotori to be embarrassed and angrily ask him what he meant, which Shido tries to rephrase. Back at Fraxinus, Kanazuki is confronted by the other angry crew members for his decision, which he tries and fails to defend. With Toka, she asks Shido if they could take one of the big water slides, suggesting that all 4 of them can go together, but Yoshino declines out of fear that Yoshinon may get swept away. When Kotori declines, Toka asks Shido to come along with her instead, and quickly does Kotori change her mind. At the top of the water slide, a nervous Shido asks if they could change the position of how they will slide down due to both Kotori and Toka being in front and behind him, but Toka hastily pushes all of them down the slide, leading to all 3 of them going off the slide but safely landing in the pool's water. While Toka expresses her excitement over the experience, a visibly scared Kotori hugs Shido, and when he asks her what's wrong, she lets go and asks him if he could retrieve her black ribbons that fell off her hair while they sliding down. As Toka tells Yoshino how the water slide felt, Kotori expresses her annoyance at the experience, and Shido asks why her ribbons are black and adds if there is something special about them. Kotori explains the importance of her black ribbons by saying that her white ribbons represent fragility, while her black ribbons represent strength, saying that she needed them to be strong on their date. Later, while having lunch, Shido notices that Kotori may be feeling upset, and when he contacts Reine, she reports that her emotions have not gone down yet, something that Shido takes as her not having fun. Just then, Kotori leaves the table, and when Shido asks her where she is going, she bitterly answers that she is only going to the restroom. As Shido sighs, he sees Toka and Yoshino looking visibly worried at him, and Toka says that she thought that he and Kotori were getting along again. Yoshino notes that Kotori looked mad, and Yoshinon points out that Shido looked visibly relieved when she left, telling him how easy he is to read. When Shido asks if he is that obvious, all 3 nod in response. Shido then decides to go to the restroom as well. As he is walking, Shido contacts Reine to ask if he is really that easy to read, but Kanazuki is the one to respond, telling him that Reine is not currently present. Just as he is about to ask where she is, he notices Reine behind 2 vending machines. Behind this, Reine is with Kotori and is checking up on her. Kotori then asks her to inject more of the medication she just gave her, but Reine rejects that too much may kill her, which Kotori only says otherwise. She continues by saying that this may be the only way to help her date with Shido, begging her to do so in order to save him, wanting to finish their date as long as she can as herself. As Reine leaves, she finds Shido having listened in on them, and the latter walks off as the former follows him. Outside, Shido asks how long has this issue with Kotori been going on. Reine reveals that it started as soon as Kotori got her spirit powers back, causing Shido to complain about not being informed about this. Reine replies that Kotori wanted it this way, expressing that Kotori wanted to go on the date with him without him feeling bad for her. Reine advises to Shido that if he wants to help Kotori, then he should first pretend that he never saw her before walking away. Back at the food court, Kotori comes back and finds Shido alone. She asks where Toka and Yoshino went to, but he replies that he doesn't know where. He then suggests that he and Kotori go check out the amusement park. Kotori still suspects that Shido is being helped by Fraxinus, but he takes off his earpiece and throws it away, once again voicing out that they check out the amusement park together. He says that they don't have to bring Toka and Yoshino along as the 2 are having fun playing. He grabs Kotori's hand and takes her with him to the amusement park. At the JSDF base, Ryuko is showing Origami a new equipment they had just received, which is a prototype experiment called white licorice. When Origami asks if they could defeat Ifrit with it, Ryuko mentions that it has enough firepower to take down a spirit. However, she also tells Origami that she lacks the permission to use it. After leaving Ocean Park, Shido brings Kotori along with him to try the rides at the amusement park. First, they try the drop tower ride. Visibly scared, Kotori asks Shido if it's too late to get off. Shido smirks and replies that it is just as the ride drops down, with Kotori loudly screaming. Next, the two siblings try a roller coaster ride. Shido is visibly enjoying his time, whereas Kotori is still scared. She comments that the rides are ridiculous before their cart goes down the tracks, causing Kotori to yell again. Back at Fraxinis, Kanazuki and Reine monitor the two after the roller coaster ride, just as Kotori angrily tells Shido off, who simply brushes aside her complaints. Kanazuki comments on how well Shido has been going with Kotori so far, and Reine expresses that this may be what Kotori needed all along. She adds that they should have just let the date go by naturally instead of interfering. Shido then brings Kotori along to a haunted house attraction. Shido is still enjoying his time, while Kotori can only express exhausted fear. Noticing the look on her face, Shido asks if Kotori wants to hold his hand, which Kotori tries to reject. She then sarcastically asks if Shido is the one who is afraid and wants his hand held by her. Shido playfully feigns being afraid in front of her. Annoyed by his poor acting, Kotori holds Shido's hand as Kanazuki complains that Shido missed an opportunity to earn a kick by pressing his body next to Kotori. The two proceed next to the go-kart ride. Again, Kanazuki is complaining that Shido should not be riding next to Kotori and that he should let her drive, as she tries to sadistically run him over, with his words getting varied reactions of disgust from the other crew members. As Kanazuki fantasizes about this, Shiizaki remarks that Shido made a good call of taking off his earpiece and not listening to Kanazuki anymore. Back at Ocean Park, Toka and Yoshino are enjoying a boat ride around the small river, but the former says that it would be a lot more fun if Shido and Kotori were with them. She then suggests that they go get them. Yoshino, however, asks her not to do so. When Toka asks why, Yoshino and Yoshinon answer that they overheard Shido and Reine's discussion from the day before, revealing to Toka that Kotori is a spirit. Yoshino says that Shido is trying his best to save Kotori and seal her powers like he did with them. Therefore, they should let him do what he needs to accomplish. Yoshinon adds that if Shido fails, chances are that whatever may happen to Kotori will not be good. Toka relents, understanding the situation but wishing that they could at least do something to help Kotori in return for everything that she has done for them. Yoshino replies that they should just let Shido handle things, as it may be the best option at the moment. At the JSDF military base, Ryuko and everyone present at the base are alerted of the white licorice's disappearance. One of the soldiers reports to Ryuko that someone had taken all of the ammunition for licorice as well, despite the CR unit not being entirely ready for use yet. Ryuko realizes that Origami is the one who stole the white licorice to try and kill Ifrit. Back at the amusement park, Shido and Kotori are resting on a bench after a long day of having fun. However, Kotori complains to Shido about his childish act throughout the day. Shido fires it back at her for freaking out earlier during the water slide. Despite complaining, Kotori ponders that at least their date has been fun so far, causing Shido to ask how long it has been since the two of them have been to a theme park. Kotori replies that it has at least been 5 years since their last visit. Shido then remembers Origami telling him that a spirit killed her parents 5 years ago, as well as remembering Kotori telling him that she turned into a spirit 5 years ago. Shido calls Kotori and looks at her, which the latter takes as a sign that he is now about to seal her powers. Kotori shyly asks if they could go somewhere private instead of being out in public, but Shido only suggests that they stay where they are for now. Shido asks her permission for a question, which Kotori initially remarks is kind of awkward. Still, she sits back up and immediately tells him to continue what he was going to ask her. As Shido begins to speak, a shield territory suddenly envelops Shido, and an explosion happens next to him at Kotori's location. As the smoke clears, Shido sees no sign of Kotori from the explosion. When he tries to find her, the territory blocks him from doing so. He looks up and sees Origami, equipped with the white licorice, who orders him to leave for the situation is too dangerous. Shido yells at her for what she did, but Origami fires it back by saying that what she did was kill Ifrit. However, Kotori rebuffs Origami's claim of having killed her, announcing herself to still be alive. Kotori begins chastising Origami for her murder attempt, voicing out how her recklessness could lead to innocent people being caught in the crossfire. A visibly annoyed Origami only fires back at her, which Kotori merely blocks with her flame powers. Kotori then dons her astral dress and summons Kamale. Origami, having finally found the spirit she has been hunting for, vengefully attacks Kotori. Shido is forcefully pushed away from the now ensuing battle, with his pleas for them to stop falling on deaf ears. From inside the water park, Toka and Yoshino hear the commotion from outside as people begin evacuating. Toka decides to go help Shido and Kotori. Yoshino stops her, reminding Toka that her spirit powers are currently sealed within Shido. Consequently, that means she may not be able to defend herself against whoever is attacking them. Despite appreciating the concern, Toka remains adamant and refuses to let Shido face whoever is outside alone. Toka then begins to manifest a partial astral dress and leaves. Yoshino, feeling unsure what to do, asks Yoshino if she can go help too. Yoshino tells her that she won't stop her if she feels it's the right thing to do. Happy with the response, Yoshino also begins to manifest a partial astral dress to ready herself. Back outside, Origami and Kotori's battle continues. Origami manages to lock Kotori in a territory and begins opening fire at her. When the smoke clears, Kotori is impressed with her current unit's firepower for being able to slightly damage her astral dress. But when she is about to start her counterattack, she begins to feel the same pain in her head as before, reminding herself not to use too much of her power. Taking advantage of this moment, Origami gets a hold of Kotori and traps her in a territory to fire an energy beam at her. However, the blast is redirected at the last moment. Kotori suddenly appears above Origami and strikes the top of the white licorice, viscously attacking it. Origami deploys a protect territory to defend herself, but Kotori relentlessly continues her attack and intimidates her into fighting back with everything that she's got. She continues by threatening to kill her immediately if she does not go all out, her eyes glowing red, signifying that Kotori is on the verge of losing control once again. Kotori brings Origami and the white licorice crashing down from her relentless attacks. Facing down Origami, Kotori turns Kamale into Megiddo, aiming it at her but once again instructing Origami to get up and fight back. When the latter does not respond, Kotori brushes her off as being weak as she prepares to fire Megiddo at her. Seeing this, Shido runs toward her, yelling Kotori to stop. Kotori asks how Origami knew of her codename, but the latter angrily asks if this is how she murdered her parents 5 years ago, which deeply shocks Kotori. Origami reveals to her that her parents were killed by a flame spirit 5 years ago, having witnessed them be burned alive, and that she vowed to hunt down and kill this particular spirit, and with Kotori, the flame spirit, in front of her, she declares loudly that she will kill her as Kotori slowly backs away and stumbles on the ground over this revelation, unable to accept the possibility of having murdered someone. Origami powers up the white licorice once again and immediately gets a hold of and captures Kotori in a territory. As Origami prepares to open fire on her, Kotori doesn't do anything to try and escape, but Shido steps in and tries to defend her. Origami demands Shido to step away, reminding him that she told him that her purpose in life was to get her revenge on the flame spirit for killing her parents. Shido announces that he won't let her kill his little sister, warning her that if she opens fire, then she won't be able to turn back, not wanting her to become like Mana. Origami, blinded by her vengeance, refuses to comply and states that the only thing she wants is to kill Ifrit with her own bare hands. Shido then asks Origami to answer one thing to him. He goes on to say that Origami is after Ifrit, the spirit who killed her parents, but Shido says that she isn't really after his little sister, causing a perplexed reaction from Origami. Shido continues by telling her that she is after the spirit who killed her parents and that Kotori had nothing to do with it. Confused, Origami asks what he is trying to say to her. She reiterates that she is after the spirit who killed her parents, and with Kotori being a spirit as well. But no matter what he says, that won't make her stop wanting to get her revenge for her parents. She then demands Shido to get out of the way, but Shido stands his ground, refusing to do so but begging Origami to give him time. Origami ignores this, saying that this is her chance to finally get what she has wanted for so long and that she won't miss it. Shido remains adamant, telling Origami that he won't just stand by and watch her murder his little sister, and that he won't sit around as a friend of his is suffering, referring to Origami herself. For a moment, Origami reconsiders, but then summons a protect territory around Shido and goes to continue her attack on Kotori. Before she can fire, Toka and Yoshino arrive just in time to stop her. As Toka and Yoshino are glad to see Shido to be alright, this moment is short-lived when Origami immediately retaliates against them. Luckily, the two dodge her attacks unharmed. Toka then tells Shido to get Kotori and get out while she and Yoshino distract Origami and buy them some time. Shido goes to Kotori and picks her up. Annoyed, Origami tells Toka that she doesn't have time for them. Toka then tells the former to stop trying to kill Kotori. However, Origami once again rebuffs the request to stand down, telling Toka that she has no idea why she is doing this. Toka reminds her of the time she accidentally shot Shido when both of them believed he had died. She explains that moment in her life felt more broken and alone than she ever felt before, asking her if that was also the same feeling she suffered after losing her parents. Toka admonishes Origami for trying to do the same to Shido by attempting to kill Kotori, telling her that it isn't fair for Shido and that she is being selfish for wanting to hurt good people. Origami then remembers Shido making her promise to not hurt any more innocent people. But all that leads is her angrily letting out a roar and countering Toka with a barrage of missiles. Each one strikes Toka directly, who screams in pain in response. Shido takes an emotionally weakened Kotori to the side of a building. Kotori apologizes to Shido for what is happening, but Shido tells her not to worry and that he will find a solution for this. Shido looks around and notices the destruction happening in the fight. He then holds Kotori, deciding to seal her powers right this moment. However, Shido is unable to determine Kotori's affection level without Reina's aid. Yet when he sees Origami, with Toka holding onto the white licorice on top, charging at them, he is left with no choice but to proceed forward. Shido then announces to Kotori that she will always be the best little sister to him and confesses to her. He asks what she feels about him. Kotori hesitates to answer, but at the same time, Origami begins firing her missiles that detonate around them, and with Shido calling her out, she finally admits her feelings for him. As she continues to do so, Shido leans in and kisses her. As this happens, a flashback happens to 5 years ago on the day Kotori became a spirit. In the flashback, a newly transformed Kotori sadly walks towards Shido, who is lying on the ground unconscious, and kisses him. The wounds on Shido start to burn away and heal up. Kotori's astral dress then disappears and Shido awakens, where he gives her a pair of black ribbons, the ones she wears in her commander mode. Back to the present, both Shido and Kotori are in shock of the flashback, now having remembered what happened then. While the two are talking over this, another set of missiles nearly hit them and Shido picks Kotori up and starts running away. However, one of the missiles strikes behind Shido. While it misses as a direct hit, his back is injured from being caught in the ensuing explosion. Origami sees this, but then notices that the wounds Shido just sustained have burned away and healed back to normal. Shido then puts an unconscious Kotori down and faces Origami. He says to Origami that if she is after the flame spirit, then she isn't after Kotori anymore, telling her that his little sister isn't a spirit anymore but declares himself to now be a free, and that he is the one she is now after. Shaking, Origami asks what he means. Shido responds by telling her that he remembers what happened 5 years ago and that Kotori didn't kill her parents. Origami says otherwise, but Shido acknowledges that Kotori did start the fire, but it wasn't her that killed her parents. Origami refuses to believe him, but Shido reveals to her that another spirit was present during that time, the one who turned Kotori into one as well. Origami is skeptical. She descends to the ground and readies an energy blade while saying that she wants to believe Shido but can't. Shido understands, saying that she has no other choice and encourages her to kill him, reminding her of what she said before of how nobody should ever feel the pain she suffered through that day. Origami hesitates, but suddenly feels weak and falls to the ground. Her limit of using the white licorice has passed, but then draws out a gun, refusing to miss her chance at revenge. Shido tells her to put the gun away. He says to her that Kotori saved his life the day she became a spirit, and that if it weren't for her, he would be dead by now, and begs Origami to believe him. Origami still can't put herself to believe him, but then falls unconscious and Shido runs to her side to help her. Sometime later, Kurumi is on top of a building, having just replenished her time. She converges her shadows back to her, but comments that the time she just got back isn't enough as she looks up at the sky. On Fraxinus, Reine apologizes to Shido for not being able to do anything to help them and puts the blame on herself. Shido believes that she is blaming herself for bringing Toka and Yoshino along, but Reine says that she meant by putting him out on a date with Kotori. Shido asks what she means and Reine explains that she should never have had him go on a date with Kotori and just let him seal her spirit powers in the first place. But when she saw how excited Kotori was while waiting for their date, she didn't stop her, not wanting to take away her happiness. Shido understands, but is confused and asks how he could seal her spirit powers when he still needed her happiness to be maxed out. Reine responds by showing him a measurement chart of Kotori during the date and reveals to Shido that Kotori's happiness meter was maxed out the entire time. Speechless at the revelation, Reine tells Shido that Kotori loves him more than anything as her older brother. But as Shido listens on, he is suddenly given a surprise but strong kick to the back, knocking him to the floor. It's Kotori. Angry at the results of her measurements, Kotori complains the system must be broken, but Reine says that they are precise. Kotori objects and commands Reine to tell her that they are wrong or buy her cream puffs, and Reine immediately follows her first command. The crew on Fraxinus are all visibly happy to see their young commander back and feeling like her usual self. Shido stands back up and asks how Kotori is feeling, and she says that she is feeling okay. Kotori says that she remembers the spirit from 5 years ago, the one who turned her into a spirit too, but is now keeping the information on Fraxinus database for safekeeping, just in case their memories are erased again. Shido asks her not to overwork herself, and she promises not to. Kotori then asks Shido if what he said before sealing her spirit powers were true, and Shido reassures her that he meant it, which visibly makes Kotori blush. As a very embarrassed Kotori tries to speak to him, Shido suddenly adds that he meant that his love for her is that towards a little sister, and upon hearing this, Kotori immediately delivers a strong kick on Shido. As she begins to angrily walk away, Kotori is called out by Shido. She angrily asks him what he wants, and Shido compliments that the black ribbons suit her best. Although not turning around, Kotori thanks him for the compliment as her brother. At the Tengu military base, the now damaged white licorice has been taken back and is being put back in its proper place. At school, Tanamachi is showing off his girlfriend to Mai and Mi as their teacher Okamin happily observes them. At a recovery room, Origami is restrained on her bed as punishment for insubordination and using the white licorice unauthorized. At the top of Raisin High, Shido thanks Toka for saving him and Kotori from Origami, saying that if it wasn't for her and Yoshino helping them, he may not have been able to save his sister. Toka tells him not to worry about it as she only responded because of what his heart was following, adding that she believes Yoshino did the same too. Toka then asked Shido that if another spirit like her appears, he would save it much like he did with her, Yoshino, and Kotori. Shido promises that he will, but Toka asks him to do so without kissing them, saying that whenever she sees him kiss another girl, she feels strange about it. As Shido tries to explain, Toka quickly tells him to kiss her right now, and when he asks why, Toka only asks him to do so. As Shido leans in to kiss her, his earpiece suddenly goes off as a comment from Kotori is heard. Shido looks up and realizes that everyone aboard the Fraxinus is watching them and asks them in embarrassment why they are watching. Kotori merely tells him not to worry about them and to continue on, with her and everyone encouraging him to kiss Toka. Shido then resumes to lean in to kiss Toka, only for Yoshinon to end up blocking the two in between, saying that the story will continue. Shido is seemingly together on a date with Origami. During the ensuing conversation, Shido starts revealing very embarrassing and perverted things about himself toward Origami, which she merely takes in without any sort of negative reaction. Yesterday at Raisin High, Toka shows Shido her new cell phone that she received from Kotori and asks for his phone number so she could call him first. Shido agrees to the request, making Toka happily run off. Out of nowhere, Origami appears in front of Shido and asks if they could go out tomorrow on a date between them. When Shido tries to excuse himself from her offer, Origami reminds him that she and him are technically now going out together, which Shido hesitantly reaffirms. Origami then tells him that they will meet tomorrow at the park at 10 o'clock exactly before leaving. Toka then suddenly comes running towards Shido, sadly telling him that she does not know how to use her new phone until she accidentally smacks Shido with it. A while later, Kotori is contacted by Shido and is told by him that Origami asked him out on a date tomorrow. Kotori simply tells him to ignore her, but Shido can't due to the misunderstanding he created of making her believe that they are going out now, refusing to hurt her feelings. Kotori eventually decides to make a plan to have Origami hate Shido instead during their date. The next day at the park, Origami waits for Shido, who is actually hiding in a tree behind her, wearing a set of awful-looking clothes that was chosen for him by Kotori. As they watch Origami wait over an hour for Shido, Kotori asks him if he had Toka do something to keep her distracted for now. Shido answers that he asked Toka to buy some groceries for dinner, with a video feed of Toka showing her shopping in the market district in town. Kotori reports to Shido that they will monitor Toka just in case something happens, especially the possibility of Shido bumping into her. Kotori then instructs Shido to begin the date. Shido walks to and greets Origami, who says that she was worried that something may have happened to him, causing Shido to react to it, prompting Kotori to talk him out of it. Origami then takes notice of Shido's clothing and asks him of what he thinks of hers. He initially begins to compliment her until Kotori corrects him, making him comment badly on her outfit, at which Origami asks him what he would rather see her wear, causing a choice to be made for the crew. Everyone votes for the third option, and Shido is forced to go with it and tells Origami to wear a swimsuit and a pair of dog ears and tail. Shido then awaits some punishment from Origami, but notices that she is gone. As he looks around, he notices Origami come running back, wearing exactly what he told her to wear, much to Shido's dismay. Kotori wonders why Origami's happiness meter did not go down, thus making her and the crew make a decision on what nasty thing Shido should say to her. Kotori and her crew then choose the first option, at which she instructs Shido to go with it. Despite Shido's reluctance to say something really awful toward Origami, he ends up demanding that she walk on her hands and feet, to which she does obediently without any sort of resistance. The act comes at the complete shock of Shido and the crowd that has now gathered, as well as Kotori's utter surprise. Suddenly, Origami snatches the belt from Shido's pants and wears it around her neck, barking afterwards. This act shocks Shido even more and causes him to apologize to her for the whole incident. Later at a restaurant, Origami excuses herself to go to the restroom, with another decision coming out for the Fraxinus crew to choose from. After voting, Kotori instructs Shido to go with the first option again. As Origami heads for the restroom, Shido then speaks out to her that he won't let her go, with Origami then deciding to do it in front of him among the people around them. Just as Origami raises her skirt, Shido then jumps up to stop her, but hits his foot on the chair in front, making him trip and fall to the ground. Moreover, he accidentally grabbed Origami's skirt, revealing her panty in front of the people in the restaurant. Unfazed by the embarrassment, Origami then asks Shido if he wants her to do so on him, shocking him even more, with Kanazuki crying out at how perverted Origami is before he is hit by Kotori since he is the same. A while later, Shido decides to go get a drink and asks Origami to wait for him. As he walks, Kotori complains at how difficult Origami is being and is forced to rely on their last resort by having Shido act as Origami's actual boyfriend. Asking what she means, Kotori tells him that since they are technically going out with one another, he could break up with her there and finally shake her off, with Shido agreeing to settle on this. Elsewhere, Toka is just about finishing grocery shopping and looks at the last item she needs on the list, but has a hard time reading or understanding what it is. Immediately, she calls Shido on her cell phone for help. With Shido, he contacts Origami and ends his ties with her, saying that he wants nothing to do with her anymore and that he hates her. As he is talking with her, Shido then recognizes afterwards that the voice sounds familiar and realizes that he was talking to Toka instead. A sudden earthquake then occurs, with Shido running off to clear the misunderstanding with her. Kotori tells Shido that Toka's emotional state is dropping down fast and that her spirit's powers are coming back to her too quickly. Shido asks how Toka managed to contact him, with Reine reveals that in case of an emergency, Toka's cell phone would instantly connect with the earpiece Shido is wearing if ever she decides to call him. Kotori reports to Shido that Toka is at the park from before, with Shido running as fast as he can to her. Origami then calls Shido and asks where he went off to, but he asks her to wait for him there a bit longer as he continues running. He reaches the park and sees Toka sitting by herself on the ground, crying. Shido then calls out to her and takes back what he said to her, saying that he didn't mean all of that and clears the misunderstanding successfully. Toka then asks if they will be together forever, and he says that they will, making Toka happy again. She then stands up and shows Shido how she did well with her first chore, and he praises her for it. Toka then asks for Shido to pat her on the head, but as he is about to do so, Origami comes out of nowhere and hugs him, with Toka noticing her presence. Origami then says that she and Shido will now be together forever. Toka then separates her from Shido and tells her loudly that when Shido said that, he was referring to her than Origami, causing another argument between the two to start. Shido then wonders what is happening until he checks and realizes that his cell phone was still connected to Origami's, meaning that she also heard what he said. On board Fraxinus, Kotori sees Origami's happiness meter surpass its limit and sarcastically congratulates her older brother. A while later at an arcade, Toka is playing one of the games until she breaks it due to imagining her enemy as Origami, much to Shido's chagrin. At school, Toka demands Origami to get her hands off Shido and back away, but she refuses until Toka forces her to let go of him. Origami remarks to Toka how she is getting in the way between her and Shido, with Toka firing back, causing yet another argument to start between the two. As the two continue arguing, Tanamachi shows Shido a new keychain he had attached to his phone. Shido asks him where he got it, and Tanamachi shows him several different kinds of it on his phone, one in particular catching Shido's attention. A pink panda keychain, which also catches Toka and Origami's attention when he mentions it. Just then, Shido gets a phone call from Kotori. When he asks her what's wrong, she angrily tells him that Toka's happiness meter just dropped and reminds him of what will happen if her happiness goes down way too far. Rain then suggests that Shido take Toka somewhere to let her blow off some steam, and when he asks where, Reine suggests the arcade. At the arcade, Toka plays different kinds of games while angrily imagining her every opponent as Origami in each one. As she vents out her frustration on Origami, she destroys enough gaming machines to the point where Shido tells her to stop breaking the games. Shido then notices one of the crew from Fraxinus, Nakatsugawa, acting as one of the repairmen in the arcade. Kotori reveals to Shido that Ratatosker had organized with the arcade beforehand. Rain then says that while Toka's happiness meter is rising up, her uneasiness remains high still. Kotori then recommends that Shido let Toka play more. As they continue through, Toka notices a photo booth, and she asks what it is, with Shido explaining to her that it is meant to take pictures of people, which strangely embarrasses Toka. She then remarks how she does not feel comfortable in taking pictures, and when Shido suggests that they do something else, Toka then shyly asks Shido if he wants a picture of her, and Shido says he would. Toka then goes inside the photo booth alone, and when Shido tries to go in himself, she reacts and kicks him away, telling him not to come in, confusing Shido. Kotori points out at how Toka must be camera shy, and Rain then mentions that she did took a picture of her during her medical examination once, making her come to a certain conclusion on what Toka is doing. After she takes her picture, Toka comes out of the booth and places her picture in Shido's breast pocket, telling him not to look at it for now, which he agrees to, still confused. Meanwhile, Origami is in the arcade herself and is playing a crane game which is filled with different kinds of panda keychains. She manages to pick one up, but when she tries to bring it back, it falls, and with no more coins, she goes to get some more. After she leaves the area, Shido and Toka arrive at the same crane game, and Toka takes immediate notice of it and happily sees the panda keychains. Shido then says that if she wants, she could get one for her, but Toka says she will do it herself. Toka manages to get one, but when Shido tries to get it, he realizes it's stuck, and when he tries to get some help, Toka punches the machine, making her prize fall, and happily picks it up, telling Shido that they can go home.